Good morning, everyone. Today's Monday, December 11th, and this is Moneyball Morning Report for the Benzinga Pro platform. My name is Anne-Marie Band, and we are starting off with SPY on the Trendspider platform. I've got the unusual options up here, and someone has these deep in the money. That's deep in the money, right? These are at the 315 and the 305s, the 320s. There's a strategy about buying things deep in the money. When you buy a call deep in the money, it's almost like buying the actual stock. I don't know if you guys remember Lenny Dykstra. He used to do that on the platform a while until, I don't know, I think he got in some kind of trouble. But, it works for some people. I don't really love it. But that, I believe, is physically interesting because I can see it moving up there on the chart. So don't normally call attention to that, but it's pretty specific. So what do we expect today? Well, we've got the CPI tomorrow, the FOMC Wednesday. I suspect today's sideways. We are underneath the close of the prior day. We are bullish and open above the open, or right at the open. I have no reason to believe other than the obvious that pullbacks are buy zones. And so where might they be? For the SPY, 458 or even 456.50. You want to check those out. All right. This alert is likely to go off if we come in and touch it. That'll give us a good heads up right at the 459 area to see how it goes. Chris Capri, who I am a huge fan of, guys, he's got, if you are deadly serious about looking into options and the like, he's got a trading waves service part of the Benzinga platform, and he talks about how to use 0 DTEs running the 1 minute chart from peak to trough or trough to peak, depending on trend. So it's absolutely fantastic. You got to check that out. Right now, we can see that we are coming back into frontline support, and I was so enamored with what he was talking about. I am going to be referencing a little more of it on the Benzinga Pro platform during the course of the day. I found it to be absolutely fascinating in terms of how he does that. So more from Chris, check that out. All right, so could we get up to 462? Yes, but that would be options that end up, traders that end up chasing price. And, I don't love chasing price. I don't really love rushing into breakout action, but sometimes it does work, right? And so that would be the top end of the range. You can see it's also the top end of the Keltner band. So statistically speaking, that's probably the high today. And notice what's happening on the depths of pullbacks. Every time we break away from our ribbon, we come right back into the deep edge of these pullbacks. So I actually am looking for a topping formation that tells me that I can short, but it will be scalping because I'm moving against trend. So what I want to see how I fail to hold higher. I'm breaking the support edge, which is that closing zone at around 460. And so I could say, hey, I'm taking the short right there at 460, where it's sitting right now. My stop would be 460.76, and that's a little bit wide for me. I don't love that. So I'd like to see 460.40, and then I'll try for the short, and then that way my stop is almost cutting my risk in half, right? Because the stop doesn't change, only my entry is changing. All right, okay, let's take a look at the Qs. Qs a little bit weaker, right? Still above, let's go to the daily. Still above the open, but below the close of the prior day. So let's put a link there, a line there, right? So that's the region, and then just above it, if it happens to stretch higher, what is the high there? 394.14. Okay, there we go with that high, and where do we think that pullback action is? Well, take a look at the last several days of motion. 2 days down, 1 day up, 1 day down, 1 day up, 1 day down, 1 day up. Piano keys, right? So some people like to call that bar coding. Same sort of thing. It just tells you all the candlesticks are retracing each other. So let's assume the obvious, right? Let's assume the obvious. So what might it be? It could be a channel, tons of sideways motion, where we would come into maybe, this is the VPOC here, the volume point of control that tells us where the majority of motion is sitting. It could come all the way back there. Let's tighten up this sensitivity a bit. All right. And so again, what am I doing? I'm below the close, so I'm stopping that short into support. Now notice, it just bounced off of my ribbon. So I'm definitely not going to be shorting there. I'm looking for the short up here at the 392.30-ish zone that tells me, hey now, once it gets up in there, you'll be looking for a short. And as soon as it comes back into the old support zone, guess what? I'm going to take some profit because it's a scalping trade against trend. If you're running with trend, it's going to tell you to wait for the old resistance, new support. So where I would get out of the trade on the short, you would get in the trade on the long. And so that's certainly how you can run that. I'm going to run this tightly. Okay, now take a look. 130 calls for January 2024. Somebody's using that same sort of strategy for the very deep in the money calls. They act as if you're holding the stock specifically. All kinds of jumbling up here. Some rebalancing in the NAS might be going on. So a little bit of weakness, but I do expect the price action to come back and test these zones. I really, if I were a betting man, I'd like that 389 test to come in to give me a really nice sweet spot to go long again. All right. So that being said, that's what we're looking for in the Qs. Let's take a look at the ES. Sorry about that slurping there, still in the middle of my morning coffee. If you take a look at the ES, not quite topping, but close, right? It seems fairly strong. 46.14 to 46.22-ish, right? We have an alert for the week. We are below, take a look at this formation. We are below the open of the prior week, 46.03. No, we're testing it right now. So this is the prior week, 46.0325. Traders are going to try and come in and buy off that zone. Watch them. See the wick? They've come in, they're trying to hold it. Now, if you are saying to yourself, maybe I can buy this. I would say, hang on. What normally happens when it comes into a resistance zone these last few days? Well, it's rotated all back down into the price of the ribbon. So instead, how about looking at this and thinking to yourself, you know what, if I'm looking for long, I got to sit on my hands just a wee bit and maybe wait for 45.73, right? Okay, we'll see how that goes. 45.73. Now, if you're like me and you're thinking about this, I've already missed the short here because what I would be looking for is 1, fails to hold higher, 2, breaks the support, which I'm gonna call that this area right here, and then bounces and gives me a lower high. So this zone right here at 46.09 really gives me the region to go, you know what, as soon as it loses 46.07, I'm short. And then 46.10 becomes my target, and then my first, 46.10 becomes my stop, and my first target is the top of the ribbon. So that's 45.99 to 4600. Look at them. That's exactly what they do, right? They're coming into the ribbon. It also happens to match the close of the prior week, so I'm going to put a line there, right? See them bouncing it? Second rotation, if you're looking at the 4-hour chart, 1, it comes into main resistance. Now we're looking for the bounce that cannot get up over 46.09. Listen, can it crash down below this area? Absolutely. But if it does, you're going to have to go to a tighter time frame to engage in any kind of shorting activity, at which point it's very likely to first come into 45.92 to 45, maybe even 45.85. Right? So those are the legs that we are looking at today for the ES. I do not expect brand new highs today simply because there's not an impetus for that to happen unless a short squeeze occurs. Because a lot of people are really still thinking that we've got a fade, that the Santa Claus rally came early this year. All right, so here we are. Happy pain? I don't even know what that thing says. But let me remove the alert. And then remove the ray. And what we can see is we are below the close of the day, which means you want to put yourself on alert for this zone. If it does not recapture this area, it's going to come down into this area, right? So what do we want to see? Let's see if it gets back above that zone. We want to make that kind of tight. Touch precisely. Yeah, let's do it. I want a precise touch into that 16.094 simply because we've got wicks, okay? Then what should happen there, if it breaches that, we've got long action. If it rejects it, if it breaches it and then rejects it, then you know, hey, I'm going to work through the rotation. This is a short, right? 16.22 and then 9.57, thereabouts, right? 9.67, 9.57, somewhere around there. Those are definitively the lines in the sand. I'm going to keep Trendspider up and looking at that. Here is, of course, we saw Bitcoin fall off a cliff last night. People buying the tops of those are in pain. Take a look. Remember, I mentioned that 42 was the line in the sand for upward pressure for the chart to try to hit. If I use candlestick formation, that number is actually 71.80, and it came into it, 71.74, high, 71.81. And I'm using this area right here, right? 71.78 comes right into it and fades. Are we above the the close of the prior week? That close is 71.30, and we are printing 71.30. So guess what? That's old support. People are going to try and short it there. Look at the ribbon, right? Everybody's coming in trying to short the area. If it comes in above 72, where I have this one, any shallow pullback should be a buy zone to get us to the other side of this ribbon up here at the round number, maybe 74, right? That's my thought. That's my thought. At the first pass, they're going to sell it. So we're looking for a bottoming formation. 1, fails to close lower. 2, tests resistance. Sorry about the frog in my throat. 3, pulls back and holds a higher low. So optimally, 69.75, maybe. That would be optimal. 70.35, you could probably take a go right there. I would say let it fade and then recover rather than just go crazy on the bounce because, again, very, very strong leverage. All right, that's it for me, folks. Walked through everything. I'll see you on the platform. This is holiday time, and I am traveling extensively through this holiday. So we'll be meeting maybe 3 times a week this week, only once next week, and then maybe once or twice the week after. And then when the new year kicks in, we will be ready to go. All right, everybody, take care, and I'll see you on the platforms.